20.
What is going on? Welcome back. 3rd and 20 podcast, episode 30. My name is Frank Entwistle. We've got the main man himself, Ryan Steed. What's going on, Ryan? How you doing?
Doing great. Just had a great Christmas. Looking for the new year and what 2021 has in store with us. But we know it starts off with playoff football, so it can't start better than that. Let's get it.
Yeah, well, hopefully 2021 is a lot better than 2020, and I hope everyone had a good holiday that is listening to the podcast. And as it says on the bottom, we are going into our first segment. We are going to be taking the floor. And this week, Dwayne Haskins was cut from the Washington football team. And to be completely honest, I cannot say that I'm surprised. And I'm listening to ESPN and, other analysis from Instagram or Reddit or wherever. And everyone keeps giving the same story behind Haskins. That Haskins was a really talented quarterback coming out, but he just didn't have the work ethic or didn't have that grown-up side to him to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And that's why he's not starting. And is that really the reason? Because we all know about the whole strip club situation with Dwayne Haskins. A picture came out or a video came out of him going to a strip club after the loss to the Seahawks, which was kind of his final nail in the coffin, so to speak. And, he got benched this past week for having a bad game. And I saw a video of Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley during the pandemic come out partying without masks. They still have jobs. Some of the best players that we grew up watching, or other people, not me, I wasn't alive, but in the 90s, would party like crazy before the every place has a camera was going on. They were just able to get away with it. And these are guys wearing gold jackets. And going off of this, Haskins just doesn't have the drive scenario. We're not in the building, so we don't really know, but Haskins was someone that was getting national recognition for his workout program in the offseason. He lost like 10 or 15 pounds and transformed his body before the season. And he was voted a captain by his teammates. It's not something that you just kind of waltz into. He had the respect of his peers on this team. And, is it really that he didn't have the work ethic? That's the reason that the Washington football team cut him, is that, that picture came out and he all of a sudden he's not a grown-up. He doesn't have the work ethic. He just didn't have the drive. I don't know. So I was scrolling through Reddit, right? And I'm seeing this one guy saying, this is how I analyze players. I look at their measurables first, knock out anyone on the bottom end of the bell curve, then get into the stats and separate, who with these advanced metrics like average depth of target and all that jazz, separate it from there. And then at the very end, if I'm torn between two guys, I'll go to the film guys' consensus on who's better. And, when you look at Dwayne Haskins, I'm just thinking about that analysis process. The post had like 50-something upvotes, a bunch of comments. It was rising. And Dwayne Haskins fits that mold from that analysis process. The guy, measurables, 6'4", 220 pounds. Rocket of an arm. Can throw the ball basically anywhere on the football field. You look at his stats from college. 70% completion percentage. Over 4,800 yards. 50 touchdowns to only 8 picks. In his first year starting for Ohio State. He's got the stats. So who needs the film? Who needs the film for a guy like Haskins, right? Well, I dug up my old notes, and the tape I had from Haskins, I was never a big Haskins guy. And I wrote he didn't make a whole lot of tight window throws. He wasn't forced to in Ohio State. He was bad versus pressure the few times that he was pressured. He had inconsistent footwork in the pocket, which was basically the sole reason of his accuracy issues. And he didn't read coverages at an NFL level, an NFL speed. And it's almost like these are all of his issues in the National Football League. Who would have thought? But the numbers, 70%, the passing yards, the records, the measurables, the pro day. You look at Dwayne Haskins' pro day. The guy was lights out. He made every throw. You'd think he was a Hall of Famer when he's wearing shorts. So where am I going with all this? First off, I think that people are completely overrating and have been overrating Dwayne Haskins as a prospect for years now, ever since the draft. If we take a look at that draft, first he fell to 15. Quarterback needy teams like the Giants, chose Daniel Jones over Dwayne Haskins. Other quarterback needy teams passed up on him in the beginning of the first round. No one traded up for him. And when you think about the Washington football team, formerly the Redskins at the time, it was leaked that Jay Gruden didn't even want Haskins. That Dan Snyder, someone who is seen as the worst owner in the NFL, forced the pick of Haskins at 15 because he wanted him. And a lot of the coaching and scouts did not. So how far would he have fallen if Dan Snyder didn't say, hey, we're taking Haskins, like he did with RG3 in the past? So all these analysts that are saying, oh, Dwayne Haskins, he's had the talent. His work ethic is the problem. Yeah, he has talent. Everyone has talent. It's the NFL. You don't get here by just walking your way onto a team. But I just want to say, can we at least, as analysts, when we're wrong, hold ourselves accountable for when we were wrong in analyzing a prospect coming out? I had Haskins as a second-round pick. A whole lot of people had him as one of the best quarterbacks, number one quarterback on their board coming out, even over Kyler Murray. But no, it's just his work ethic. Let's just make that excuse for our poor process, for us putting too much emphasis on the combine and the pro day and all this extra stuff instead of just watching the tape and seeing that someone is a good prospect or not, and really putting in the effort. I'm just really tired of these people saying it's just a work ethic thing. He had all the talent. It's just the work ethic. No, it's not. Dwayne Haskins, while he was not a hard-working quarterback, we can all see that. It was not only his work ethic that is the reason that he was cut. It was the fact that in 13 starts, he threw 14 interceptions, had a 3-10 record, and under 75 passer rating. It's the fact that all of these issues that he had in college, he was unable to overcome, which was a lot of issues, might I add, for someone who was seen as a top quarterback prospect in the draft. So all in all, I'm just so tired of these analysts and whatnot just not holding themselves accountable for when they are wrong and not trying to improve their process when they realize they did something wrong. Dwayne Haskins is the perfect example of that. He is a guy that had a lot of flaws, but we were too caught up in the numbers and how he looked with shorts on and not how he looked with shoulder pads on. Your turn, Steed.
All right. Well, this week I'm going to be talking about yet another NFC North quarterback, and probably one that people would not think of as Mitchell Trubisky, who has been given a second chance with the Chicago Bears and is given right now, as we speak, they're in the playoffs. And what has he done with his second chance? You could just tell a change of his demeanor, and it's more like he's focused in the games I've watched him play. He's more focused. He's making better decisions with the ball. And Nagy and even Jimmy Grant has came out and said, like, with Trubisky, with this second opportunity, he's just a different man. And I want to applaud with that, because all Mitchell Trubisky has done since he's got into the NFL, it seems like we just shit on him, which Rightfully so. He didn't live up to the second overall pick. And when you're a second overall pick and you're taking before Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes, two MVP caliber quarterbacks, and you're not performing at that level, yeah, you're going to get a little crap on. But I think it's time to give Mitchell Trubisky a little bit of respect to what he's done. And the 4 games he's come back in, he's put up 30 points. This offense is putting up 30 points a game. And they play the biggest game of the season to get in the playoffs. Now, it's a tough team in the Packers, and the one that will probably win the 1 seed with a highly likely MVP and Aaron Rodgers, and just a team that looks like they're hitting all cylinders, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So his true test is coming with this Packers game. But if Trubisky can somehow sneak this out, get this Bears team in. Because remember when the Bears had lost 6 in a row and when they were 5-7, we just kind of we dusted them off. Well, they're here, with the Cardinals declining because Kyler's been hurt and they can't just figure out how to win 1 or 2 extra games. Mitchell Trubisky has taken full effect and taken the initiative to get this team in its drive. Now, you got to credit David Montgomery and that running game too really get going. And maybe Nagy, and we crap on Nagy too, but there's something different in this offense. Now, it does fall on the defensive part to stop the Packers because last time they played the Packers 40 points. And I'm not expecting Trubisky to walk in there and put 45 points against the Packers this coming Sunday. But if Trubisky's able to win this game and get this team to the playoffs. If they're one of the hottest teams coming in, you just knocked off a number 1 seed, the NFC. I think that saves his job. I think that saves Nagy's job, and you got to give him another go. And if you lose this game and the Cardinals somehow beat the Rams and you're still out of it, I think you can realign from there. And but all this has to be on a positive note on Trubisky taking full advantage of this. As I'm going to read off his couple of his stats here in the past few games. I mean, this dude, 7 touchdowns and 2 picks. He's not turning over a ball. Like I said earlier, he's been a lot smarter with the ball. He's averaging around 250 through the air, so he's being efficient. I really like what because when Trubisky came out, I gave him a shot, especially when they made the playoffs at 12-4, and a lot of people crapped on it, and I know you did too. And I was trying to be a Trubisky believer, but last season, the first half of this season, I kind of writ him off. I'm putting him back in. I'm a Trubisky believer. I still think he has the tools to get this done. Just Haskins was drafted in the first round, then Trubisky was drafted number 2 overall. He has the capability of being it. It's just him figuring it out. And with him giving this another chance, I truly think it was that spark he needed to really see okay, the team's coming around Nick Foles. They're not playing well under Nick Foles. He's given another chance. And now maybe he saved his career. Maybe he saved Nagy's job. So a lot of good things moving forward for the Bears if they're able to win this crucial Week 17 game.
All right. Well, with that being said, let's move on into NFC Contender or Pretender. We're going to go through the NFC possible playoff teams, and we're going to be asking the question like we did with the AFC. Can this team come out of the NFC and make it into the Super Bowl? Not necessarily win the Super Bowl, but who do we think can or cannot make it and be the champion of this conference? Let's start it off with the guys that you were just talking about, the Chicago Bears. And I am very happy that you brought up the Bears offense, because the Bears offense, granted, they've been playing some bad teams with bad defenses, teams like the Jaguars and the Texans. They have been putting up points, which has been, aside from a handful of games, like their other Packers meeting where the Packers just steamrolled the Bears, their offense has been bad, to say the least.
Oh, yeah, it was horrendous.
And I think it shows when they've only beat 2 teams when their opponent has scored 24 points or more, at that 24-point line or more. And that's the Falcons and the Vikings. Falcons, we all know, they blew that lead to Nick Foles coming in a game that I honestly think the Bears should not have won. I think most people can agree the Falcons should have just won that football game. They were up very late in the football game. It was pretty ridiculous that the Bears were able to come back. But regardless, and then they won against the Vikings a couple of weeks ago, 33-27. And that was the first week that their offense really started finding its new groove. So when we're talking about if the Bears are legit or not, you know, they've had some really close games and they've beat some good teams.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the Bucs 20-19.
They took the Saints to OT like midway through the season too.
Yep, they took the Saints to overtime 26-23. I mean, they've played close. It was a one-score game against the Colts, 19-11. It was a one-score game against the Titans, 17-24. This is a football team that I think you're right is a lot closer than people think. And I'll admit that I was wrong here. I wrote the Bears off. I said that
too.
The Bears, they have no shot of making it to the Super Bowl. I said, Matt Nagy will never make it to a Super Bowl. Now, I still agree with the fact that Matt Nagy is not necessarily done what he was hired to do. If you wanted a defensive coach, you might as well make Chuck Pagano the defensive coordinator, the head coach. But at the same time, when we're talking about if they can find a way to beat the Packers and get themselves in the playoffs, if their offense can score more than 24 points, this is a team that can win playoff games. We're talking about an NFC that is honestly wide open. The Saints are nowhere near as hot as they were in the beginning. The Packers are hot. I'll give them that, and that's probably their worst matchup. They can beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals can't figure anything out. The Seahawks offense is going in the wrong direction from the beginning of the season. The Rams have scored less points than the Bears this season. You know, and every NFC East team is the NFC East team. So we have no idea what we're getting out of them, but it probably is not good. So this team has a shot. This team legitimately has a shot. So with what I've seen out of their offense, if they can sneak into the playoffs, I actually think they're legit, which is the craziest thing to think. I would never think that this Bears team is legit. But if I can get a Bears offense that scores more than 24 points in every playoff game, they can win. As long as I don't see the Packers, and they got a big test against the Packers this week. It's just, I can't even fathom them saying this, but I think the Bears actually have a shot. If Mitchell Trubisky keeps playing hot, and this running attack it stays hot, and their defense just does what it needs to do, all they need to do, they can win any game in this NFC if they score 27 points.
Yeah.
So I think they're legit.
I'm right there with you, which is really funny because, like, I can't believe I'm going to say the Bears have a shot. Then later on the podcast, I'm going to say a couple of teams that I don't think will win. But yeah, dude, I agree. Like on the same principles, this team, which they started 5-1, hit that little rough spot. You know, they were just able to produce. Like on offense, a couple of those games, they're already in. I mean, we're talking about a 11-5, 12-4 team here. And we're talking about maybe on Sunday, they're not competing for the 7th seed. They're competing for, you know, the division. And now like that, they finally found themselves in the offense, which we knew throughout the whole season that was the problem. I got to give it to them. You know, that's the name of your game where you score in NFL. If you score 30 points, majority of the time you should win that game. But their defense has great pieces. And if they can just keep on putting up points and being productive, I think the key is David Montgomery has to stay hot along with Trubisky. But if they can control the time of possession and keep that defense well rested, then they can beat pretty much anyone. And that's what's cool about Sunday is you get a true test if like we're right or not. You know, we don't have to wait another week. We get to see this week if they're legit or not. Because if they can go in there and beat the Packers, then, well, the Packers are going to be the 1 seed. They can technically beat anyone, you know, in the NFC at least. So I'm gonna have to agree with you. I think the Bears are legit, and that if they get in at 9-7, and they got to play that 2 seed, and it'd probably be the Saints. They took them to the overtime earlier on the season when they were still kind of fumbling around with quarterback, not really finding their stride. I kind of like them in that game a little bit, and I'm going to give it to the Bears.
Yeah, when you look at this Bears schedule, it's just crazy. Some of the games they lost, like 19-13 against the Vikings. Like I said, 24-17 lost to the Titans. 26-23 loss to the Saints. A 24-10 loss to the Rams, which is a bad loss. But once again, they just need offense.
Yeah, put the ball in the end zone.
A 19-11 point loss against the Colts. These are really good football teams that just one more touchdown and they win a game. And you're right, we're talking about them for the division. Real quick, so Chicago, they win and they're in. Or if Arizona loses, Chicago is in. So they have two separate paths I didn't count any of the tie scenarios in this thing, but they have a pretty clear path to the playoffs. They can get some help if they don't win, but if they do win, they're in. They control their destiny. But now let's go to the Cardinals, the other wild card team. Cardinals, they are in with a win, I believe. I think that if the Bears and the Cardinals both win, then the Bears are in, or is LA out? I'm pretty sure then.
Okay. Well, that put the Rams at 9-7, right?
Yes, I believe LA would be out at that point.
But the Rams lost to the Bears earlier. Well, Rams beat the Bears earlier. I think the way it is, I think what the Cardinals need is that the Bears lose and they have to win. Because I think at the end of the day, as the Bears hold that 7 seed right now, I think all the Bears have to do, I think, to my knowledge, the way I see it, is that if they win, they're in. And the Cardinals, if they win, they need some help. And they could get some really good help as the Bears have to play the Packers. But that's a tough test for the Cardinals, talking about that team, the team that historically plays the Rams bad, and the Rams need that game, and it's really funky. But I think I don't think the Rams have clinched it.
No, they have not. I'm pretty sure if the Cardinals beat the Rams and Chicago beats Green Bay, then Chicago and Arizona would be in, and LA would be out. Yeah. So with the Cardinals, let's talk about the Cardinals real quick, because this is a huge game against the Rams. This is not a fun matchup for the Cardinals, because this is a team that you have struggled against for almost the past 3 to 4 years. I remember a couple weeks ago on the podcast, I said, this is a Rams team. They've beaten the Cardinals by 7 points or more in 6 straight matchups, 5 straight matchups now. And that held true the last matchup. The Rams beat them pretty good. They were in that football game. Now, Arizona is really not playing good football. Kyler Murray is hurt. It's almost like a whole storm has gone against the Cardinals, even in my Dan Arnold jersey. The thing with the Cardinals that I find extremely interesting is that they have both an offense and a defense. They're just both not consistent. When you look at all these other NFC teams, it's like, okay, the Rams have a great defense but a terrible offense. They've scored less points than the Bears this season. To put it in perspective, we view the Bears as a terrible offense. The Rams have scored less points than them. The Seahawks, their defense is just It's pretty shit, especially against a good offense.
It is what it is.
Every NFC East team has huge flaws, whether it's on the offensive or defensive side of the football. The Packers, their defense is pretty suspect. Their offense honestly carries them.
Yeah.
And it's been that way for years. They basically just ask Aaron Rodgers, hey, go out and win us football games, and it works in the regular season. And then when the playoffs hit and they have to beat good team after good team, it starts to struggle a little bit. So the only other really complete teams are the Bucs and the Saints. the Saints a team that is kind of trending a little bit down from the middle of the season because they don't have Michael Thomas. The Bucs are really the only team, the Bucs and the Packers, that are trending up in the NFC. But this Cardinals team, if they make it, they're scary just because if they start putting it together and things start clicking, this is a team that I don't think many people want to play.
Dude, yeah. I don't know. I think like if it was between it, which is going to be between the Cardinals and the Bears, if I'm a team, I don't want to play the Bears. I think I can beat the Cardinals, especially if we like. I know that the Cardinals, like, especially with Kyler, like I just saw today where he's going to play this week, and he wasn't supposed to be playing. He's only playing because there's playoff implication on the line, and he's just that kind of guy. He's one of your franchise players. He's going to play. You're not going to bench him. If he says he can play, he can play. And it just seems like ever since that Sunday night win against the Seahawks, where it put like the Cardinals in the lead of that division for like literally a day, it seemed like they just haven't been consistent. They've had opportunity after opportunity, week in, week out, because that was a month and a half ago, and they haven't been able to close it out. And I'm a true believer. It's like how the last like month you're playing, coming into the playoffs, you want to be hot. And I don't think the Cardinals are that hot team. And especially if they get in the playoffs, if I'm Saints, I'm licking my chops at that one. I just, you're playing a team that, and especially being New Orleans too, like you're playing a team that's just not playing good football and weaseled its way in. Now, weirder things have happened, seeing like teams like a 9-7 Giants team go all the way to the Super Bowl. But, I would be more fearful of the Bears. So I'm going to say the Cardinals are not a threat. I don't think they're going to make it, honestly. I think they're going to lose on Sunday, which sucks because I love the Cardinals. Like you and me both thought the Cardinals would make the playoffs this year and have tremendous improvement from last season, in which they've shown in marks this yet. But Cliff Kingsbury is along with Kyler Murray, they're both young, and being young like that, it's hard to figure out how to win on a consistent basis and win like the must-win game. And I don't think they're exactly there yet. And if it came to a playoff, I just kind of see them fading off too. So for that reason, I'm going to say no contender.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. No contender. This matchup on Sunday is going to be really, really, really interesting. I tend to agree with you that I would pick the Rams just given everything that's going. Everything is trending for the Rams, it seems like, aside from the fact that the Rams offense sucks. But just the fact that they've played them really well in the past, Kyler is going to be hurt. It's just, at the end of the day, I think with Kyler with his back against the wall, I think that we're going to see his magic. I think that he's going to pull the rabbit out of his hat this week. And if the Cardinals defense that has a lot of talent can just play well, not just get bullied. It's just so annoying, the Cardinals defense. They're just so wishy-washy. I just wish I got some consistency out of them, because it's almost like one drive, the Cardinals defense looks legit. They have great players on the defense. I really don't think it's a talent issue. Like Hassan Reddick is really good at pass rusher. I think they have Goldston, who's another decent pass rusher. They have Patrick Peterson, Buda Baker, I forgot his name. Like
Isaiah really Simmons.
Good, just talent, a lot of talent. And they just need to put it together for an entire football game. And this is the week to do it, because the Rams can't move the ball for shit. They couldn't score on the Jets, for God's sake. So I actually think that Arizona has a shot for some reason. I don't know why, but I'm going to agree with you. I don't think they're legit. It's just not enough out of them.
I think a good way to see the Cardinals team, especially now, is you're right. Talent across the board, yes. I just don't think, even though the talent's there yet, talent is there. I don't think they're on that path to where it's it comes back to that consistent kind of grab, but they're just not there yet. Yeah, you have the talent, but until you're able to really buy it, I think they're a year away. I truly do now. Like we were judging them. We say they would make progress this year, which they have made progress this year, but they gave us a limelight. Halfway through the season, this was a team fighting for the division to really falling off, and then that just shows me like lack of like age, maybe something like not being able to finish the job, like Tom Brady, like the Bucs went through the hard point of the season too, kind of like the Cardinals, but look at what they're doing now. I mean, I think the Bucs are a huge threat in this NFC.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think that comes with the maturity, like they're not mature yet. And I think next season, especially you see from a young defense, even though these players can make plays in any given moment, to be like where they're in every play making the right play, I think that's more of a 2 to 3 year kind of like outcome process. And I think that just trends to next year.
Yeah, the one thing I will add before we move on from the Cardinals is that I'm not necessarily a Cliff Kingsbury hater, but I'm also not a Kingsbury believer at the same time. Partly due to the fact that I just think they get out coached some games when they have clearly better talent. Like that early loss to the Panthers really spoke volume to me. It's like, dude, if you're a team that really wants to win the Super Bowl, you should not lose to the Panthers on any day. I don't care. Like, you can't, unless it's a divisional game, you can't lose to the team. They have too many issues.
Yeah.
And I'm just not really a huge fan of their organization top to bottom. I don't think they have a top-tier ownership group. I'm not a huge fan of their GM, even though he made some good moves. Like, obviously, trading a second for D-Hop was a good move. But I think that anyone with half of a brain could have realized that doesn't make you a good GM, one move. So I think that is also working against the Cardinals. So I'm going to say not legit. But let's move on to the Rams. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Not legit, just because their offense, man. I do think the Rams have a better shot than the Cardinals if they're in there, just because they've been there, and their defense is just, they at least have something they can win games with. Their defense is so good that it can go in there and carry them. And at least I've seen it a couple weeks out of their offense. It's just kind of going through a rough stretch. So while the Rams are more legit than the Cardinals, it's just they have no momentum. They have zero momentum, and their offensive line is banged up. They can't run the ball consistently, even though they get yards. It's not consistent yardage. It's just, you have 1 or 2 gashing runs, but other than that, it's just 1 to 2 yards. Jared Goff is not looking confident. I can't buy into this football team.
I'm staying with you. I don't think they're legit. Yeah, you're right. Any given day, that defense can go in there and win them a game. If like the offense is somewhat productive, puts up 20 points, they have a great shot at winning that game. But the teams you're going to run into these playoffs, they're going to beat you. They're going to score points. That's how it's going to be, unless you play lights out. And if you run into that little problem where, you give like the defense plays well, but gives up 24 points, I don't see how the Rams outscore you. I don't have any faith in Jared Goff. I mean, I could see a lot of people saying, well, Jared Goff has the experience, he's been to a Super Bowl, but even in that Super Bowl run, well, you got to remember this isn't the same Jared Goff. This isn't the same Rams offense. That Rams offense back then hit on all cylinders. And it's still like a little bit from last season where it's just that play, that what the bread and butter was, it was to run the ball effectively and open up that play action pass. And it's just not there still to me, not at a consistent basis. And I sat down there and watched a good amount of that Seahawks game, and Jared Goff, like if it was a 3rd and 5 and there was an out route to like Robert Woods or something, easily could have been just fit the ball in the pocket. I mean, your number 1 overall pick, 4th year in the league. You were talking about an MVP one time, misses the throw. And if I'm going to get that, like pretty much anytime it's 3rd and manageable, I'm just not going to believe in you. So yeah, I think they're done. Easily 1 and done, even if they get in.
All right, let's move on into the New Orleans Saints. Oh, man, the Saints, this is a team that is just, I want to say legit so badly because I do like the Saints. I think they have great coaching staff. They have the defense has been playing really well, but there's just a little voice in the back of my head saying that I know the Saints are going to get screwed late in the playoffs again.
Or lose in the first round like they did last season.
I just feel like it's going to be one of those years again for the Saints. Now, because the NFC is so weak, I'm going to say legit. Just because of the fact that when you just look at the teams, they can beat any NFC East team. They can beat the Seahawks. They've played the Bucs really tight. I think they match up well against the Bucs. Arizona, Chicago, LA Rams, they could beat all those teams. The Packers is a questionable one just because, I'm just not sure if that game becomes a shootout kind of a game that the Saints offense is going to be good enough. But because the division is weak and they play the Bucs well, I'm going to say legit. Even though I think that things aren't necessarily trending well for them, even though they had a huge game against the Vikings where they just crapped on them, and they had a close game against the Chiefs. It's just I'm not sure it's enough for me. So I'll go legit, but it's a lot less legit than you'd think.
I'm going to go legit. And I'm going to be a little nicer on them, surprisingly, because, I hate the Saints, but that's the fan talking out of me. But, if I have to sit here and think, well, first of all, I have to be, kind of edge the Saints because they are, one of my, early on Super Bowl pick. So I know Michael Thomas is a big out, but, dude, if you can get Alvin Kamara to run for 6 touchdowns every game, you can beat anybody in the world. So, at the end of the day, look at it like this. I still think their defense is top-notch, especially in the running game. And they can shut down anybody in the NFC. They can. And we've seen them play the Bucs twice. They've blown out the Bucs twice. We've seen them play the Packers week 3. They lost to them, but, that was early on in the season. You get a little rematch. I know the Packers are really hot now, but, how many times are you going to beat Drew Brees and Sean Payton 2 times in a season? It's very it's hard for me to see it, and also Drew Brees. This is a team that got the Vikings lost last year with the Kyle Rudolph questionable push off, and then the Minnesota Miracle, and then the Rams little no PI call there 2 years ago in the NFC Championship. This is a team that's been. If I'm a fan of the Saints, I would easily use the excuse, we have been wrong the last 3 seasons and we deserve a break. And I believe in law of averages, and I still think even if they're not fully healthy and have some of their best weapons on the field, I still think this team can get it done. Even though Marshawn Lattimore, I just have to get this in because I like crapping on the dude, is not as good as people think. But he could rise up to the occasion. And I still like this team, man. For some reason, I still think they can get it done.
They have going to be playing up front, which is just big, man. Their offensive, defensive line are dominant.
Okay, look at the road, going forward. They would play the 7 seed. That's either going to be the Bears, Cardinals, or Rams. Right, one of those 3 teams. And they could beat those teams. Bears would, like I said earlier, would worry me a little bit, but I think at the end of the day, they could beat that team. And then what do you got next? Probably the Seahawks, right? We know how bad that Seahawks defense can play. And I know it's Russ, but it's at home. Give me the Seahawks there, and then anything else can happen.
You mean the Saints there?
Yeah, give me the Saints, not the Seahawks.
Dude, honestly, thinking about it now, I think you're right. The Saints would be licking their chops getting the Cardinals in the playoffs as the 7 seed because.
Oh yeah, I would love that. I would want that if I'm the Saints. I don't want the Bears to win on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. And even if the Rams, if you're playing the Rams, is there a situation where if the Rams and Bears get in that you're playing the Rams? I don't know.
I think the Rams win. They get the 6 seed because the Rams had that tiebreaker in the Bears, right? Because they beat them earlier.
Yeah. So the Rams, no shot. Your 7 seed is the Rams. So then, yeah, you're probably not playing the Saints. Oh, geez.
Oh no, that's not a good omen.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna say not legit for the Saints just because I can't be like, oh, I don't like their chances, but then say legit. I'm gonna go not legit, but oh man, they can win up front, which is huge for me. My whole thing is that when you look at some of these games that they were in, right? So the Vikings game, they just destroyed on the ground. The Chiefs game, they were not able to destroy on the ground. They came back towards the end, but the Chiefs were kind of just in control for a lot of that game.
Yeah, they hit cruise control. Yeah.
The Eagles were able to beat the Saints because they could beat them on the ground. That second Falcons game, granted Taysom Hill was starting, but the Falcons defense was good on the Falcons defense in both of those Saints matchups was really not the issue. It was the fact their offense just couldn't move the football. And then you have it like, I'm just worried if I'm a Saints fan. Let's just take the Bucs, for example. Even though I just said, like, I thought about it a little more, like, I'm not sure I like that Bucs matchup anymore just because if they have to rely on running the football, I'm not sure they can. So you're going to need to be able to throw the football and win playoff games. But let's move on. Let's move on. We're taking too much time on the Saints. We'll just get it out now. Packers. I know you're going to say not legit. Oh, suck. Just get it out. Just do it. You've been doing it all season. You might as well get it out.
I know. I'm going to keep this one short. I don't think they're legit still, even though they've been impressive. But I'm going to die on this. Like, I don't think they're legit. If it comes down to the big game, they will fold. I
got to say legit. This is just the hottest team in the NFC. The one thing that worries me about the Packers is the fact that they just don't play the full 4 quarters of games, it seems like. It's always first half they dominate, second half things start creeping in. They looked really good at home against the Titans. The Titans are the definition of inconsistent this year, right? And that's a good matchup when you're Aaron Rodgers. You play up against a secondary that's struggling. He's been doing that for the past 4 seasons plus, just destroying teams that don't have a great defense to figure him out and get pressure on him. But when you have to play the Bucs, when you have to play the Saints, even the Bears in a playoff game, I'm not a huge fan of the Bears matchup just because the Bears offense, man, it's just so bad that the quarterback disparity is just ridiculous. But I'll give you credit. The Bears, it's not looking as favorable as it was earlier in the season. I understand why you don't like this football team. That's just the one thing I'm scared of. It's just I need 4 quarters in the playoffs. We saw it last year, the amount of times that teams would start off well against a team like the Chiefs, and the Chiefs would just turn it on and then beat you. That can happen with a team like the Bucs with Tom Brady. Right, you have Drew Brees in the playoffs. You have Russell Wilson. You have sick quarterbacks that can all of a sudden turn it on. And if you're not a team that plays 4 quarters against Russell Wilson, against Tom Brady, against Drew Brees, you can lose. It doesn't matter if you put up 28 points in the first quarter. So that's the one thing I need out of the Packers. Let's move on. Buccaneers, legit. I think the hottest team in the NFC, contrary to popular belief, over the Packers, just because I'm seeing it all now. This is a team that we knew they had the talent, but it wasn't coming together on, some games. The defense was letting up points and the offense is all right. We saw more of the offense struggling with Brady throwing more picks than he's had in any season ever and stuff like that. We're finally seeing him put it together. The running attack is looking a lot better. The connection with Brady's receivers looking a lot better. And that front 7 is disgusting for the Buccaneers. So legit.
Yeah, I'm going to go legit too.
Concur
right.
Everything?
Yeah.
All right.
The hottest team in the conference.
Seahawks. This is Hawks. Steed, you're a big Seahawks guy. You start off. Legit or not legit?
I'm going to take the cop out. I'm going to say legit based off a couple things. Even though their defense pretty much all season is horrendous, I'm going to believe Jamal Adams is saying they're figuring it out. They're popping off at the right time, which I think the Rams offense kind of blows, but they played well. And, at the end of the day, Russell Wilson is a top 3 quarterback in the league. And if you have Russell Wilson, who's probably has huge playoff success, I think you have a shot. And I think the Seahawks have a decent shot at winning the Super Bowl, believe it or not.
I completely agree. You're right. The Seahawks defense, contrary to popular belief, is a different defense. It's a different group than it was earlier in the season. They are figuring things out. Their run defense has always been good. Their pass defense has went from historically bad to about average, which is good enough when you're the Seahawks. You have Russell Wilson. Their running game at this point in the season is not garbage like it was last year, where they only had to throw the ball. At least this year, they can run the ball.
Yeah.
They're getting guys like Rashad Penny back. They still have Carlos Hyde. Chris Carson, I'm pretty sure, is still healthy. I know he's like always banged up, but I'm pretty sure he'll
play.
Around. This is a Seahawks team. I would never want to play the Seahawks in a playoff game. And the last thing I'll say about the Seahawks is that they're a team that can just do the craziest things. They can be down 2 scores with 4 minutes left, and Russell Wilson and that group of guys can just come back.
Yep.
So they're a team I never want to play. And if they're able, they can get the first round bye. If they win, Green Bay loses, and the Saints lose, they are the 1 seed, which would be scary. Having to go through Seattle for the NFC would give Seattle a huge boost. A huge boost. I'm going to go legit with them. So have we done every team but the NFC East? We did Bears, Cardinals, Seahawks, Rams, Packers. Okay, NFC East. Yeah. Here we go. This is what I've been waiting for.
Let's just do the Cowboys and the football team together.
Wait, hold on. Ready? So the Cowboys, their scenario, they need the football team to lose and to win. Same thing with the Giants. The Giants need to win and the football team to lose. The football team, you win and you're in. That's all you need to do. This is super weird because the Cowboys right now are the hottest team in the NFC East. They figured it out somehow. Their offense is moving the ball with Andy Dalton. Their defense is still bad, but it's making some big plays. They've had some big turnovers.
Don't break.
The Giants are kind of middle of the road. Their offense has just been basically non-existent most of these games. Their defense is still good, but their offense has put them in so many bad scenarios that they're middle of the road. And then the football team doesn't have a quarterback. Alex Smith is basically dead. And they cut Haskins, which is great because Haskins probably gives you a less chance than any quarterback in the entire league to win a football game, other than Peterman.
Not Peter Pants. Peter Pants might be better than Haskins.
So first off, we got to pick a team to get out of this division. I think the football team loses and one gets in.
I do. I think the Cowboys are getting in, believe it or not.
We wrote them off too. We wrote off the Cowboys early in the season.
Yeah, when you're 3-7, you do play in the NFC East. You could be like 0-10 and still be in the playoff mix somehow. But yeah, I mean, to keep it short for me, as like any of these teams who get in contenders now, one and done. You're gonna have to face Tom Brady and the Bucs. I understand, like, you get that little home edge, but like, there's no way Tom Brady is the GOAT losing to a 7-9, maybe a 6-10 team. That's just not going to happen.
I would be scared to play one of these teams. Home playoff game for one of these guys.
It would be kind of – you could – yeah, because you could undermine them. And like, it would just be so NFC East for any of these 3 teams to get in, just like, win a playoff game and just spoil a season like Matt Hasselbeck did with the Seahawks. But, like, I don't know, dude. I don't see it.
So I honestly believe that the Giants are the most legit of any of these teams. Earlier, a couple weeks ago, you would have said the Washington football. But because the Washington football team doesn't have a quarterback, and I don't think that Alex Smith can play injured. Alex Smith, the reason why the football team was good is obviously their defense is really good. But Alex Smith was hot. Now he hasn't played in a couple of weeks. I think if you throw him back in there, he's not playing as well as he did earlier in the season. The Giants, on the other hand, Their defense is also good. And I think that their offense right now just has a little bit more potential, let me say. Like, they're all, both of these teams' offenses suck. But at least with the Giants, I don't know, like they have a shot if Daniel Jones comes back. You never know what the hell you're getting out of Daniel Jones. He's a mixed bag. But
yes,
at least with Daniel Jones, I feel like I get a quarterback that can just win a game. I can have Daniel Jones just, do some zone reads. He'll make a couple big throws as long as he doesn't do anything stupid. I think that he can win a football game. And we saw them play the Bucs really close on Monday night, I believe it was. My dog of the week at the time, they let me down, but that game was close. It's a team that can still run the football. They were able to run the football against the Bucs, which was surprising at the time, but I think that the Giants are the most legit, which is crazy to say. Cowboys, I think they'd be a one and done team. I don't think they have it.
Yeah, the thing going for the Cowboys is that Andy Dalton is hot, and out of the quarterbacks we just talked about, with no Alex Smith, he's like the vet, so he's been there before, so you kind of have an idea. I just can't get over how bad the defense is, though. Like maybe they could contend for a little bit and move the ball, but like there's just no way that defense can keep on creating turnovers and just get lucky like that. It's going to be wild to see who wins this, but who actually wins the division.
All right, let's pick a Super Bowl. What are our Super Bowl teams? I'll go first. I think I'm gonna take the cop out and just Chiefs Packers. It's such a cop out. I don't care.
I'm staying with my preseason pick and Chiefs Saints, but I think I'm going to put money on the Ravens to win because I can see them making a run.
Yeah, I could also see the Ravens making a run. I would be scared to play the Ravens. They're an offense that's different from earlier in the season. I don't even know what we call this segment. Underrated and unwatched. Let's try that.
Or what about sleepers? All team sleepers.
Yeah, I don't know. So this is going to be one of our first draft segments. We're going to have a lot more draft segments coming up with the season closing down. But the first draft segment that we are going to do is me and Steed are both going to list 5 players that are just underrated, guys that we want to have on people's radars, but they're just not being talked about. They're not the really shiny prospects like the Trevor Lawrences and whatnot, but one from each position and then an extra one that we think, not that they're going to be insane, but guys that just could make an impact on a football team and just interesting prospects. I'm going to start with a guy that I've had my eye on for years now, and that's Sam Buchwele, former Texas quarterback, now SMU quarterback. He's a guy that great air raid quarterback. I've liked his game for a while now. He's almost like a Case Keenum to me, where he's a guy that doesn't have that really big arm. He doesn't really have the physical tools of an NFL player, but you talk about a guy that's just really good in his system. He obviously knows the system really well. He's had tons of success throwing the football. While he has some flaws, I just think that this is a guy that he's going to go later in the draft because he doesn't have the physical tools. But, for a team, I think that this guy could at least be a quality backup quarterback, and even like a Case Keenum, maybe find a way to start some games and almost Kirk Cousins his way into a starting role at some point. Not necessarily that he'll be a Russell Wilson, but a guy that I just find really interesting. And if I was a team that just needed depth at quarterback with a 4th or 5th round pick and he's on the board, I think I'd take the shot on him.
I mean, we sat down and watched some of his game. I like his game. SMU always had pretty potent offense. For my little sleeper quarterback guy is a guy from Memphis, Brady White. I've seen him play for the last couple years here at Memphis. He was a 3-year starter And, Memphis is pretty respected football team. They've had some great football teams. And I think he's been really like a main drive behind it is that, like what I've seen is he's able to he could stretch the field. He puts the ball in a good place where the receiver can catch it. He's not going to leave anyone out for dead. It's just, and the problem with me for Brady White is that he's going to be old. By the time the rookie season starts from him, he's going to be 25 because he got redshirted at Arizona State, I'm pretty sure. I remember. But, and also, like, I don't think he has the best arm, but, like, for a guy that, you don't have to excel at the deep pass to be a threat, like Matt Ryan has excelled at the intermediate passes, and he could be a guy like that. I mean, he's over, I think he's like 6'3", it says right here, in 210 pounds, so he's a little skinny. But, you get him, put some weight on him, I think he's a day 3 guy. But, if your team, like we were talking like the Bears or something, and you want to like give Trubisky another shot just based off this last 4-game success, I mean, maybe you pick up a guy like Brady White, if there's no more tight ends on the board for you, and you get you see what he's got. I think he's kind of falls in that same boat, like probably not as better as Sam Boucher or like more recognizable name, but I think like, he could be an easy guy that, finds himself on a roster.
No, yeah, I haven't watched a ton of his game. I have watched a little bit of Memphis when actually kind of recently when I was watching Kenneth Gainwell. Not doing analysis on the quarterback, but I mean, he makes some throws and they're a passing offense, so he's going to be an interesting guy. So my receiver, I'm going to have 2 receivers, one here and one of my flex. The first one is a guy from my school, South Carolina, Shi Smith. This is a guy that I don't think he's going to have that hype that Bryan Edwards and Deebo Samuel had, especially because he just didn't really have that production. Now, South Carolina right now is a dumpster fire. It is a complete mess of a program, and I think that that's just going to really hurt Shi Smith. The thing about Shi Smith, though, this guy has wheels. Mm-hmm. He is a burner. I remember watching last season against Clemson, or maybe it was 2 seasons ago, I forget. He completely burned Isaiah Simmons, a guy that ran a 4.39 40 at the combine. I expect Shi Smith to run around that, if not faster. He's a guy that he's going to the Senior Bowl this year. I have my magnifying glass on Shi Smith at the Senior Bowl. This is a guy, he's going to get some NFL looks due to his speed. And if he's the kind of guy that you can get 4th round, 5th round, somewhere around there, he may go earlier just to his potential. He could be a really interesting prospect for the modern game in the NFL. And I think that South Carolina is a team that has done him no favors for his draft stock. And he's just a really interesting guy that I'm keeping my eye on during the process.
Yeah, I'm going to go receiver 2 here. Jalen Darden out of North Texas. When I was first looking at receivers, I like looking at these non-Power 5 conference, see if I can find one. Well, it turns out this guy was the Conference USA MVP from this season. I mean, you want to hear some crazy stats. North Texas played 9 games this year. This dude he caught 74 balls, almost had 1,200 yards, and had 19 touchdowns. So if we want to talk about a kid that can ball, he can ball. And the way I was looking at some of his tape, not like tremendously into it. I mean, dude, this guy, I think he can run some damn routes. I think he can run about every damn route on the tree. The only thing I think hurts him going forward is that, he's a little small. He's 5'9", about $170. But I think legitimately this guy could creep in day 2 and be a nice little slot guy for a team. I mean, these guys right here is just the production just speaks to me, really. I mean, those numbers are ridiculous.
Yeah, he's a guy I haven't done many of the receivers yet. I've been getting through the running backs. He's a guy I definitely have my eye on. You're right. He's had incredible production. I believe he's also a returner. and has had some decent returning success. So I've always been a guy that if I see a receiver or a running back as a kick returner, I give him a little extra check just because you know that they're able to make some space in open field. And it generally kind of translates to extra vision as well, just being able to read defenders' leverages and blocking leverages. So I'm going to move on to my running back, though. My running back, this is a guy that I know is rising up a little bit. He's not a completely unheard of guy. And it's Mohamed Ibrahim from Minnesota. This is a running back that was seen as mainly just a power back. Just give it to him up the middle, and he'll give you a couple of yards, 3, 4, 5 yards. But I watched some Minnesota games just hanging out, and while I haven't done my analysis on him, he's a guy that kind of just popped off the screen. A lot of really nice runs. I think he's a pretty polished runner. He's powerful. So I haven't done an analysis on him. It's coming soon, but he's a guy that after watching a couple of Minnesota games and seeing the success that he has behind that big ass O-line, I've just naturally had my eye on him. I've always been a fan of power backs that have good vision and are a little polished. So he's the kind of guy that, while I'm not sure he has the talent to be just that all-purpose back at the next level, probably not, most likely not. He's, I've found some guys like this before, guys like a Jay Ajayi, who I was high on a while back in that Todd Gurley class. I thought he should have been a second-round pick. He ended up going the 5th round, and he was a steal. So Mohamed Ibrahim could be in a similar vein, a guy that people think, oh, he just doesn't have that ceiling, but could be a productive football player on a power running team.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of go with the power back too. I got Caleb Huntley from Ball State. This guy, he's just like really beefy, like if you want to say that. He's 5'10", 230.
Oh, man, he's thick with an extra C.
Yeah, this guy is huge, man. Like, I tell you right now. I mean, but like, I'm looking at his production. I've seen a couple Ball State games, especially this year, because if there was any kind of football game I watched. But like, I mean, in 3 games he played this year, he had 430 yards with 6 touchdowns, and he's coming off 2 1,000-yard seasons from the seasons previous. I just think this guy could be a day 3, and if you need a power back, he's the kind of guy, because what I've seen from him is that he has really good patience and good vision of like on when to know to hit the hole and when the hole is going to open and really hit it going. Now, he's not going to catch the ball. I'm reading right here, like on his stats, he has 7 career catches. If you want him to be the do-it-all back, he's clearly not going to be that guy. But, I mean, dude, like as a number 2, 3rd and 3, something you just need, or on the goal line, plug in Caleb Huntley. He's going to get you in there.
All right, I'm going to move into my tight end here. This is a guy that's going to go not early in the draft, but he's going to be a guy that NFL teams definitely have their eye on, at least in my opinion. And that's Charlie Kolar from Iowa State. So this is a guy that I saw when I started watching some Brock Purdy. Iowa State was a team that I kind of had circled because they have some good players on that team. And Charlie Kolar really stuck out to me. This is a giant tight end. I believe he's 6'7" or 6'8". And I'm pretty sure he's one of those classic basketball players. He was more of a basketball player, but converted to football player. And he is a beast. This is a guy that's just good at catching the football. He looks like an NFL tight end. Once again, I haven't done my analysis on tight ends. They're going to be the position group that I touch, but Charlie Kolar is a guy that I definitely have my eye on for some fantasy leagues. If he's the kind of guy that I can pick up very late in a draft or even undrafted, and I need a dart throw or I need a tight end in one of my leagues, Charlie Kolar, I think, could be a great value grab depending on what team he goes to, because he looks like the kind of guy that give him a season or two to develop in the NFL. He's got all the potential in the world. So I would not be terribly surprised if this guy goes like late day 2 or really early day. Yeah, probably like somewhere on day 2, I'd say.
All right. My tight end, I got to go with my home dog, Quentin Morris from Bowling Green.
My home dog.
My home dog just figured out about him 3 days ago. But yeah, dude, I was doing a little research on him. Like this is the first year he moved to tight end. He was a receiver, and he's just very athletic. And he's 6'4", 250, and like he's not gonna be like your traditional tight end, like really, help you on the block or be kind of like your Kittle kind of guy. But, as a receiving tight end, I think he has the capability. If you're a receiver changing a tight end, you've got the athleticism right there in your pocket. So I think he'd be interesting and maybe as a day 3. And he's going to improve in the blocking game, I'm sure, because it's still relatively new to him. But he could be an interesting project, though, if he makes out. And see what happens with old Quentin Morris.
All right,
he'd be a great pass catcher.
Yeah, you're right. He's definitely a guy that would probably go day 3 or undrafted. If you want a project kind of tight end, if he does have those skills or the athletic ability and you want to take the time to develop him, he's definitely a developmental guy. But my last guy is going to be Warren Jackson from Colorado State. If you're big into college football or like Devy for Dynasty, you've probably heard of this guy already. He goes to Colorado State. That's the same school with Michael Gallup. He put up in both of their junior seasons, because he sat out this year. They put up similar numbers. Michael Gallup had 1 less catch, but he had about 100 more yards and 6 more touchdowns. But Warren Jackson is 6'6", 220, and I'm pretty sure he's relatively fast. He's the kind of guy that I've been saying for a while to a bunch of my buddies. I would watch out for this guy at the combine, because if A, he has the potential to knock the combine out of the park. B, if he does that, I can see this guy going 2nd round, early 3rd round, because, dude, a 6'6", 220 receiver, if he runs a 4.5, let's say, man, there are not that many guys that have that kind of athletic. And he didn't get to play his senior season, so we don't get to see the tape on him, but he's a guy that I've had circled for a little bit. I'm not usually a huge fan of circling guys just for the athleticism, but my God, he has crazy athletic potential that you just have to circle.
Yeah, I'm going to go with another kind of guy like that who I think he's just going to test very well at the combine, and I'm going to try to say his name, is Josh Imatorbhebhe. I think that's how you say it. Or is it Behihi? I don't know. But he's from Illinois, and he's 6'2", 215, but I was doing a little research on him. He did a vertical jump back in 2015, and he marked in at 47.1 inches.
Holy crap!
Yeah, so, we're already thinking this guy's going to easily clear the 40-inch mark in the combine this year. So, which puts him, will put him at the top of his class easily.
Just for reference, I'm pretty sure that LeBron has,
LeBron has what?
I'm pretty sure LeBron has, a 44-inch vertical.
All right, so this guy can dunk.
Yeah, this guy can get up. Holy
this guy,
crap.
I mean, he's just you see him on tape, he just he has great acceleration, and he's got a nice frame, and it looks like from the couple plays I've seen from it, he has a nice little catching radius. But out of all these physical, good athletic specimens, you run into the little bit of problems well, they can't really run this route. It's just kind of the catching whole thing. But I'm telling you, this guy, I mean, he has the name for it. It's he's going to test well at the combine. He's going to open up some people's eyes.
Yeah, I just looked it up. LeBron has it says on Google, somewhere north of 40 inches. So somewhere between 41 to 44 to 45 inches. 47 is absurd.
That was back in 2015 too, when he was in high school.
If he does that at the combine, that might be a combine. I don't know what the record is at the combine, but that is ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm about to look that up. NFL Combine vert record.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, it was set back in 2005 from Gerald Sinzaba, safety out of North Carolina. He got 46 inches.
So he's got a shot here. He's got a good shot to
he's got a shot. And I mean, like, if he tests well, I mean, even if like his tape is not like electric, and you got to understand he plays at Illinois, but you know, like those numbers alone could easily get him in the 5th round or something.
Oh yeah, I mean, if he has a great combine and so a coach just likes his potential, who knows where he can go? So he's definitely a guy. Yeah, you're gonna have to send me. I'm not sure I have him on my scouting doc, so you're gonna have to send me his name so I can add him on there and look at his tape. But with that being said, that's going to be the end of the episode. Just for reference, we're going to be doing the picks and the film analysis. They're just going to be coming out as separate videos now. So the picks video should be coming out similar time, Friday or Saturday. So don't worry, we'll still have the picks coming. But if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit us with a like and subscribe. Comment if you're feeling frisky. But thank you so much for listening if you made it this far, and peace out.
Peace and love, baby.